Alright, so moving on, we're still supposed to do Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. So we got to do 31 minus 1.5 times 10.5. If we do that, we get 15.25. Now, these are the cutoff points for outliers. So, if a man makes more than this amount of money per year in thousands of dollars, or less than this amount of money per year in thousands of dollars, he's an outlier. So we got to go back to our list and say, okay, does anybody fall outside those values? We'll look at the list and we say, okay, we don't have any small outliers, but we do have a big outlier. The man who makes $65,000 a year. He's making more than that upper cutoff point for being an outlier. So, man who makes $65,000 a year, he's an outlier. He makes more than $57.25 thousand a year. So, yes, we do have one outlier. So to answer this question, the man who makes $65,000 per year is an outlier. That was unusual. And I did just make up that data, so anyway, keep that in mind. Okay. And also something to keep in mind, it's important to note that the units here on all these things are thousands of dollars. So I didn't write down units out of laziness and to save time, but yeah, on all this stuff in here, units are thousands of dollars. Okay. Now, the 5-number summary. So if we talk about a set of data's 5-number summary, well, we're talking about the min data value, Q1, Q2, Q3, and the max data value. So it's what our calculator spit out before when we did one variable statistics. So if you remember to recall to do that, you hit stat, go over to calculate, one variable statistics. I had mine in list 2, so I'm going to hit second, hit 2 here to make list 2 appear. And if I scroll down, hit the down arrow, I get the 5-number summary. So the 5-number summary for the sample amends annual incomes in Corpus Christi was, well, the min we get is $21,000. Q1 is $31,000. Q2, or in other words, the median, is $37,000. Q3, the 75th percentile, is $41.5 thousand. And the max data value was $65,000. Okay. So I say use this data to create a box plot. Well, what's a box plot? It's a way to describe how your data are distributed. It's a quick visual representation that someone can look at and see about how your data is spread out. So, all right, incomes were between $20,000 and $70,000. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make a line here. I'm going to say I'm going to go by tens. So I'm going to make $20,000 here, 30, 40, 50, 60, $70,000. All right. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little tick mark at the max data value. Right there, $65,000. And then I'm going to put a little tick mark at the min data value, about $21,000, right here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tall tick mark at $31,000, Q1. So right about there. And then I'm going to put a tall tick mark at Q2, the median, which is $37,000, which is right about here. And then I put a tall tick mark at $41.5 thousand. In other words, Q3, which is right about here. All right, and then what I do is I take these middle tick marks and I make a box out of them. And then what I do is I extend lines going from the middle of my box out to the ends there. So this is a box plot. Now, when you look at the box plot, what it's telling you is this. It's telling you, okay, 25% of data are in here. The next 20, so that's the lowest 25% of data. Data between the 25th and 50th percentile are here. Data between the 50th and 75th percentile are in here. The top 25% of data is in here. So if we look at this box plot, it's telling us, okay, if we just look at this picture and have no other information, it's telling us, okay, well, the top 25% of wage earners, their salaries are spread way out between $41,000 and like $65,000. So the top 25% of wage earners, their incomes are all spread out. Now, the middle class, the people in the 50th to 75th percentile, their incomes are really close together, not much variation. So you can get a lot of information from a modified box, or from a box plot. And then I say, okay, well, we can create a modified box plot to identify outliers. So make a modified box plot for the sample of men's annual incomes in Corpus Christi. So a modified box plot, well, it's pretty much the same thing as a box plot, except for this one key difference. So when you make a modified box plot, you point out where outliers are, usually with an asterisk or something like that. So the only difference between this and the last box plot we drew was that I'm going to go out to $65,000. I'm going to say, you know what, that was an outlier. So I'm going to put a little asterisk there. And then I'm going to say, well, what was the new highest income? So I'm going to go to Stat, Edit, and say, okay, what was the new highest income? My list is in order, so I'm going to scroll all the way down. And I'd say, okay, $47,000 was the next highest income. So I'm going to put a little tick mark at $47,000. And then everything else is going to remain the same. Okay. All right, so there's my modified box plot. And now this gives us I like this a lot better than the last box plot we drew, because before we said, oh, you know what, the top 25% of wage earners, their salaries were way spread out all over the place. But now we see, well, no, it was just one outlier that was distorting our picture. The top 25% of wage earners in our sample had incomes that were actually very close together. So, the top 25% of wage earners, their incomes aren't actually all that spread out.